What? Drew Code is live? What? Yes, you are seeing this correctly. All zero of you. Uh, I'm just kidding. Hey, welcome to Drew Code Sports Talk. I am your host, Andrew Wright. And over in his living room, who just got back from doing an errand, is my co-host, Cody Johnson. Cody.
What's going on, man? Welcome back. Welcome everybody, whoever is watching us on the live stream, which is currently nobody, but hopefully you guys will join in. But we'll definitely be, hopefully you guys are hearing us on the podcast as well. So welcome. We got a really fun show for you guys today. We're talking about, obviously, the Raiders. Who knew? Also, we're going to be talking about some NFL head coaches on the hot seat, which is going to be very interesting. And, of course, Drew's favorite. We're looking ahead at the postseason of Major League. We are here, and I know he's ready to get started. So I'm going to hit this intro, and then we're going to come right back. So let's get started.
Take off from a break off from the weak minds. They can stay soft. You can change lives. You create thoughts. Never waste time. You got one shot. You got one life. Better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5. No mean boss. Just my life and free.
All right. Yes, we are back for another week. Cody, first of all, I appreciate you holding down the fort last week. 2 weeks ago, we ended up having to cancel. We were actually going to do it on the golf course.
Yeah.
And it ended up kind of following through, and which was a good thing because we would have been pretty ticked doing it out there. But then unfortunately, I had a wedding that I was involved in. So I had to do a lot of stuff for for the kids and for myself and for my wife and for the actual wedding party and all that. So there was a lot going on, and intertwined, I actually had to do some work in between all of that. So it was just a big, I guess, present full of wedding plans and trying to, be certain places on time and all that. So it was just crazy for me. You as well, because we had this golf event, then you had to go to Arizona. So we just had a ton of stuff that was going on. And luckily you were able to record while you were in your hotel room. And towards the end, I don't mean to point it out to everyone, but you were like, and we're gonna, and I thought you were falling asleep.
I felt like it, man. It was a long day. Well, so first off, and I want to ask you too. I know that you're going to ask me, but I want to know, because I did mention it on the last week's show, is, we had the golf event. It was hot as heck. And, it was fun. To me, it was fun. I had a great time. Yes. Luckily, we had a great group of other teammates with us, my colleague and her husband. So I wanted to know from you, though, what, in your perspective, how was the event for you? And, how do you feel like you played that day? Because I know that we were really rough on ourselves that day when we were golfing.
Well, my driving was terrible. I don't know. The first hole, my drive was perfect because it was going with my right slice that I was hitting it. So it was all good. No issues. And then after that, it was like pretty much straight fairways, and I had to kind of maneuver myself, and I ended up in the rough a lot. But I felt like my chipping actually was pretty good. And I felt like I had some really good putts too, which I was I was actually really I think that's why I felt really good about it, because I was like, okay, at least I was finishing the holes, and so that was I thought honestly it was fun, and it helps that they had a lot of alcohol there, so I had 3 or 4 beers there, and I had a shot on one of the holes. And then after it, I was so tired. I needed something to kind of like pick me up. And so I went to the bar that they had there, and I got a drink from there. So, it was fun. Honestly, I honestly have never gone golfing where I drank that much, and I still didn't feel like I was going to yak it. Like, how you get like when if someone like plays softball and they're drinking beer, you're like, how in the heck are they doing that? that's how I kind of felt at the golf tournament or the golf event. But after a while, it was kind of like we hadn't eaten all day.
Yeah.
And so the alcohol was honestly the only kind of thing that was kind of helping my body maintain what is going on.
Yeah.
So it was a good time though. I really enjoyed it. Yes, it was hot. Yes. Did I play great? No, but
yeah.
It was fun, and I had a really good time, and it was nice hanging out with you and getting to know your coworker and her husband, which was fun.
Yeah, I was saying that last week. If it wasn't for him, we'd still be out there. There's just no way we would have finished at a decent hour. But fortunately, somebody was good on the day. And,
well, I actually was talking to God. I don't remember who I was talking to. I think I was talking to Neo. Who is officially my brother-in-law now.
Shout out to Neo and Maya for getting married on Saturday. Shout out.
Neo and Maya. Congratulations, guys. I'll do a little congratulations in a second, but it was I think I was talking to Neo, and I was like, yeah, man, like the winner got like 19 under, and they're like, do you think they really got 19 under? Do you think they put that? And I was like, you know what? They really didn't have people watching.
No.
And I was like, why were we honest about it? We should have just been like, we're just absolutely stroking here.
Right.
We should have just done that. Dang it.
They would have looked at us and been like, no, you didn't.
They're like, let me see you hit the ball off the tee.
Go ahead.
You know what?
On this three-part. Go ahead.
I would, but I'm pretty sure my shoulder just got separated, dislocated. So, I'm going to have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
But anyway, as I mentioned, I went to a wedding. My sister-in-law Maya and my now brother-in-law Neo, which I can actually say it now and it actually be true, because every time I'm always like, oh, this is my brother-in-law Neo, and he's like, oh, why did you tell him that? I'm like, it's just easier.
It's easier than saying my sister-in-law's boyfriend.
Yeah. So now it's true.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say shout out to them. I had the honor and the privilege to be the best man for Neo, which was honestly, it was a huge honor. I really did not expect it. I thought that was really cool. I wrote a speech and I did the speech at the wedding, and I felt okay about it, but I was like so nervous going up there. But everyone said that I did pretty good. So I appreciate everyone who took the time and was like, hey, good job, and I appreciated that, because I was like, I don't think anyone liked it.
No, I was telling you this when I saw you, that it was a really good speech, and you did really, really well. Everyone loved it, and I don't know if you could have done any better, to be honest. So,
well, that makes me sad because I think I could have. Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate it. But honestly, I just want to say, big congratulations to Maya, who, I've known her for years now, 10 years at least, and I just honestly, I don't know what it is. Like, just, I always viewed her as my little sister, and I didn't think that, you just never think that your siblings are ever going to get married. And then when they do, you're like, oh, this is weird. But I love Neo to death. I love Maya to death. So I'm so glad I got to be in that. And I appreciate them for letting me even be in the wedding. So, and trust me, after my kids left the wedding, me and my wife, we had a fantastic time.
Yeah, unfortunately, my wife and I had to split early. We were actually really humbled that Nia and Maya invited us. It was an honor. I know that as long as you and I have been hanging out, we've known Neo and Maya, and we've been fortunate enough to call them friends as well, and in a roundabout way, seen them grow up as well. And so it was really cool. It was great to see that they had a magical moment. I work in a certain industry where I can be judgmental at certain places, and I felt really defensive for Maya because there was just some things going on in the background that I would have not let happen if it was my responsibility. But
can I tell you one thing?
Huh?
Maya and Neo did say they really appreciated that, because at first Maya was like, maybe I'm just overreacting. Maybe I'm like on too much of an edge. And then when you guys were telling her everything, you guys were like, I wouldn't have done that, or that wouldn't have fly. She was like, I felt so validated. And she was like, I even felt even more angry. And I was like, well, good. So
Well,
I had to let you know that.
yeah, because again, my wife and I were in the same industry, and it just so happens to take care of people. And we just wouldn't, if it's someone's magical day, the last thing we want them to remember is the stuff going on in the background. We want them to remember the moment. And, it was a beautiful moment to begin with. I mean, thankfully, there wasn't too many distractions that really took away from it. But still, though, I'm being defensive of her because I know her and Neo. And so I would have just not have let that happen if it was my responsibility. But it still went off without a hitch. I don't want to make it sound like someone fell through the rafters or anything. I mean, it all went great.
Someone
It was
spilled wine on the on the bride.
Yeah.
So.
So I just wanted, there's been certain ticky tack things I probably would have done to secure her to make sure that she knew that it was all good. But it was still beautiful. And again, it was great. And kudos to you, best man. You did a great job. So, I think you should take a bow and give yourself some grace. You did really well.
I won't because I wish I were the groom in that sense, because I was asking Neo, I was like, did you ever pay for a drink? He was like, nope. I was like, man, I paid for a lot of drinks.
Yeah.
All right. Enough wedding talk. Enough of all that. Cody, let's get into sports. And let's start with something that we had to start with.
Yeah.
The Raiders and the Broncos, and the Raiders come out victorious, finally breaking the losing streak, and Josh McDaniels gets his first win as the Raiders head coach, so congratulations to him. A lot of good things that happened for the Raiders. There were some negatives still. Obviously with the Broncos there were some positives, but also negatives as well, and we'll get into the Broncos. But let's talk about the Raiders first. I kind of came away from this game kind of thinking, okay, that was a good win no matter what. In my opinion, beating a rival division team in this type of environment. Yes, it was in Las Vegas, but still came out on top, of course. That was a big win. And a lot of teams will always tell you the first win is always the hardest. Some teams, they start 1-0, and that's great. Some teams don't. Obviously, the Raiders were one of those teams that were not starting 1-0. They started 0-3. So you're getting more and more pressure each week to, okay, you got to win, you got to win, you got to win. They finally won. Regardless of what happened with the Broncos and kind of like what's going on with them recently, I thought this was a great win, but I also did think, Cody, and I'm gonna present this question to you. Was this a better win for the Raiders? Or do you think this was a worse loss for the Broncos?
So I think I'll put this in the Raiders. It's a good win for them. And the reason why is because the Broncos actually were tied for the division lead going into this week with the Chiefs. And I believe they have statistically I don't know about it now, but I think statistically they had a top 5 defense coming into it. And their pass rush defense is legit. I will say in the couple of games that we've seen them, they're definitely a force to be reckoned with. And I think their offense, for some reason, it wasn't clicking. Maybe that's because Wilson didn't play hardly any preseasons. Again, it's a brand new system, a lot of young players, a lot of new pieces. But for some reason, and again, I think because the Raiders defense is still trying to figure out how to play defense, if that makes any sense, they were still, the Broncos referring to, they were actually able to move the ball. It seemed like they were able to get into sync. They were running really well. Our defense, came through when it needed to. But I will say that this is a really good win for the Raiders because, again, it's a tough defense they played against. They went against a top 5 pass rush, and they did really well. Devontae Adams went against arguably one of the young up-and-coming cornerbacks in the league right now that's been known to shut down. He had a really good game. Derek Carr found Adams throughout the game, which is what we've been hoping for. And Josh Jacobs ran the ball really well against a really stout Broncos defense. There's some things that I would have liked to see a little bit differently in terms of like the Raiders offense, but for the most part, it's exactly what it needed to be. It needed to be a run-centric offense and then let the pass plays develop as they needed. Don't really force the ball. And that's pretty much how it went through. I really feel like that it's a great win to get our confidence up. Do we have a lot to work on? 100%. But I think this is a good win for the Raiders because they didn't let a lead slip from them. They had to come back. There were times where their offense just didn't seem to move the ball. And when they made the adjustments, they stuck to those adjustments and they were able to find ways to score. Majority of the game was all field goals. We even had a fumble return for a touchdown, which really turned the momentum around for us for a little bit. And in the fourth quarter, we didn't let up, and we didn't let a lead escape. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Broncos were, they were heading down the field, and if it wasn't for a couple of good plays from the defense, probably would have scored ultimately. But it was a great team victory, and it's a good confidence booster, in my opinion, for the Raiders.
I agree. Listen, you kind of were bringing up the Broncos kind of struggled a lot at certain points. And I actually came away with saying, and I'm in agreement with you, I think this was a better win for the Raiders than it was a bad loss for the Broncos. Is it a bad loss for the Broncos? Yes, because it's a divisional game and it's a rivalry. Of course, that's always a bad loss. But I didn't go away from the Broncos thinking, okay, this is a messed up team. I actually thought the Broncos played better. Could that have been the product of the Raiders defense? There's that possibility, because literally right now it seems like Max Crosby is the only one who is getting pressure on any kind of quarterback.
Yeah.
Chandler Jones has kind of been, and I do understand there are times where Chandler Jones is not supposed to be actually rushing the passer. He's kind of supposed to be containing. So I understand all that. But the thing is, we're not paying this guy a ton of money. And we let go of a Carl Nassib, who I saw on Sunday Night Football got a sack on Patrick Mahomes. We let go of Yannick Ngakoue, who's now on the Colts, who at least pressures the quarterback. So for me, Chandler Jones still having those struggles, that could be a big product of why the Broncos looked better. But overall, I thought the Broncos looked better. I thought the Broncos, Russell Wilson, honestly, I felt like he had a better deep ball in this game. He decided that he was going to run a little bit more. Javonte Williams was basically a no factor, and then he got hurt. And I've been a proponent from day one that I didn't see what everyone else was saying about Javonte Williams. I never saw what they thought, and I thought the Raiders did a great job against him. Obviously, yes, he did get hurt, but I'm talking about before. He didn't look great. Honestly, Melvin Gordon, even though he has a problem with fumbling, especially recently, I thought he was the best running back for the Broncos. So for me, I thought the Broncos did play really well. But what I think the Broncos ran into was the Raiders said, okay. And I texted you this during the game. I said, isn't it amazing that when you throw to Davante Adams in the fourth quarter, good things happen? Yeah. Who would have thought that you throw it to the best receiver in the NFL and he can make some really good plays? It's kind of like that's why you traded for him, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So for me, it was just insane that week 2, week 3, we forgot about Davante Adams. Week 1, we kept going to him. Yes, we ended up losing, but at least we were throwing it to him, giving him a chance. And that's kind of what my issue was going into this game, was why are we not making it a priority for Davante Adams to catch the football? The first game he had 19 targets, I think it was 17 targets, excuse me. Insane number. But listen, they were really trying to show, hey, Davante Adams fits on the team. They lost to a good Chargers team, in my opinion. No issue on that loss. My issue with the other weeks was Davante Adams, we'd throw him a touchdown, and we're like, okay, we're good. We finished what we needed to do with Davante Adams. Now we're going to run our offense. And it was like, oh, I forgot we had the best receiver in the game. Oh, shoot, we lost. So for me, targets and catches were a necessity. You need to get Davante Adams going. And that's what they did. 13 targets, 9 catches, 101 yards. Did he have a touchdown? No. But was he effective in the game? He absolutely was. Yes, a touchdown does help. But later in the game, when you need a first down, when you need make a shorter third down, maybe convert a fourth down conversion, Davante Adams needs to be a go-to guy. And it finally seemed like they were like, okay, he needs to be a go-to guy. I don't know why these NFL teams, and it took them 4 freaking weeks to decide, oh, maybe we should throw the ball to Adams, but they ended up doing it, and look, it worked out. And 2, you could make the argument Josh Jacobs had a phenomenal game. But the thing I noticed, too, was they didn't go away from the run game. The other 2 games as well, they went away from the run game, but they also went away from Davante Adams. That is a recipe for a disaster, which it ended up being on both of those games. So you give 28 carries to Josh Jacobs, a couple of carries to Zamir White, and then Davante Adams had 1 rush for 4 yards. Not great, but was targeted a lot and was a go-to guy. There was a 1 play, a crosser, where Davante Adams was running. It was like a 6-yard pass. It was nothing. Davante Adams catches the ball, breaks the initial tackle, gets a first down, and I'm pretty sure that was like a 2nd and 13 or something like that. Got a first down on it. And it was like a simple play, but you see the impact that he has. He's not the best receiver just because he's got great hands. He's not the best receiver in the game because he can run these good routes. He's the best receiver because he can do both, and he can also make big plays when he needs to. There was another pass where he just threw a back shoulder pass to Davante Adams, and Adams was like, yeah, I'll grab it. And he snagged it, and it was on Patrick Surtain. And I was like, that's what everyone gets for, well, I'm not going to go graphic here, but that's what everyone gets for talking up Patrick Surtain all the time, which I think he's a great corner, no question about it. But you forget how good Davante Adams is, and I think it really showed how good he was in that game. So I'm sorry I was a little long-winded on that, but I was really excited that it kind of felt like the offense was starting to get in their groove.
Yeah. And one of the things, too, just to bring up real quick, you mentioned about the rushing, they didn't go away from it, which I agree. And it was a recipe for a majority of the success. I think another pivotal thing, too, was that Derek Carr, rather than forcing the issue, when he had the opportunity, he would take off and run, and he would run for maybe 10, 12, 15 yards. And in some instances would pick up the first down a couple of times, rather than, he would try to find a receiver, even though he's got maybe an open lane to run for a couple yards, get down, and then shorten the distance to the first down or whatever the marker is. And I really thought that was really good of Derek Carr to be kind of there, because I think a lot of the questions have been Carr's decision making. And yes, it's a new offense, new system. He's getting a feel for it, where he needs to maybe throw the ball and, this, that, and the other. But I really think that in this game, and against the Broncos too, which I think is pivotal, being a divisional opponent, really gives that confidence of, okay, he's understanding the offense. The offense is kind of on the same level respectively. And, they had this formula, they followed the formula, and it led to a victory. So, I know that we're foreshadowing right now, and we're going to talk about the next game shortly, but I really like how this put us in the right step forward. And I'm hoping that it continues to catapult the momentum for us for future games coming up.
I did want to say one thing before we go into the next question, where I wanted to say this because a lot of people were calling for Josh McDaniels' head, which I understand. Listen, I get it. It looked bad. Okay. I'm not like one of these guys who was looking at it and going, well, this doesn't make sense. But to me, I'm more of a patient person when it comes to football and fantasy and baseball and fantasy baseball even. I'm very patient when it comes to that stuff, because I don't know coaching all that well, but I at least understand, and I've watched football long enough to understand that sometimes the coach, it takes a few weeks to actually get it going. Like, we're kind of seeing that with Fresno State. Jeff Tedford is a guy who has coached many years before, but he took 2 years off. He came back, and obviously he lost his top quarterback, so that hasn't helped. But you're kind of starting to see, like, okay, It's taking him a little bit to kind of get rolling and really get this offense and get a hand on what he wants the offense to do. And the same token, it's the same way in the NFL. Sometimes you get head coaches who work just like that. There's no problem. It's just, let's go to work. Sometimes you get coaches, and sometimes these are the best coaches, where it takes a while, a.k.a. Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll was almost going to be fired in Seattle. Russell Wilson came, and he's been the coach ever since. Bill Belichick the same way. It was looking like if they couldn't get it done with Drew Bledsoe, he was going to be done. And all of a sudden, Drew Bledsoe gets hurt, and they were like, he's done. Like, Belichick is going to be fired after this. And Tom Brady came in and decided to be the greatest quarterback of all time, and no one saw that coming. And so sometimes it's a player, yes, but also sometimes it's just you need to get a groove. You need to have that consistency. Tom Brady was a consistency. Russell Wilson was a consistency. And I think Josh McDaniels is the same way. And I also do feel like you look at Bill Belichick over the years with the Patriots. What was the worst month for the Patriots in their whole 20-year dynasty? What was the worst month? Do you know?
Probably their opening month, if I'm not mistaken.
September was always the month where they lost these weird. They would lose to the Dolphins, who were like the worst team in the league at some points. They would lose to the Dolphins. They would lose to the Bills, who were really bad at the time. They lost these weird games. They would lose to like the Texans, and you're like, why are they losing? They're so much better. It was, for some reason, Belichick always did his experimenting in September. Always tried to keep a game plan going and see how it would work on certain teams. What if, hear me out, what if Josh McDaniels took that idea and took it to Las Vegas and was like, okay, let's see what we can do here. And he goes, bear with me, guys. Let's just see what happens. Did they start 0-3? Yes. But then all of a sudden we get in October and we get a win against a Broncos team where everyone was betting the Broncos, to be honest.
Yeah.
And everyone should have. The Broncos were a better looking team. So to me, I feel like Josh McDaniels kind of took what Bill Belichick does. September is the worst month. They were just trying to see what was going to work. Hey, what can we do with when we see a defense like this? Let's try a pass. Then let's try a run the next time. Let's see what happens if we run it up the middle. What happens if we run on the outside? What happens if we run a curl route? What happens if we run a streak? And so on and so forth. So that's what I think was really going on. Do I have film to prove it? No, I'm not. I'm not going to be that guy who's going to record the games, rewatch it, and then try and pick every little thing that I think is going to be good, because I don't have that time. I got kids. But anyway, and I'm not getting paid for this, so that's another thing. But I just feel like I really do feel like Josh McDaniels took that and ran with it here in Las Vegas. And yes, is it frustrating as a Raider fan? Yes. But as an admirer of players and coaches, this could still work. I'm actually not as panicked as I thought I would, because we're going to have a question come up later. I don't think there's a great team in the NFL right now. I really don't. And we'll get into that later because that's one of our questions. But I really don't feel like there's a great NFL team, which means the Raiders, it doesn't matter what the record is, as long as they still play well, they could still have a potential spot in the playoffs. And I don't think I'm going to rule that out yet.
Yeah.
Okay, Cody. So I'm going to ask you this question. I'm sorry I went long-winded again, so it seems like it's going to be one of those days. But we're going to skip the second one that is on the list that I know you see. We're going to go right to the Broncos. Okay? So is the problem for the Broncos? Because there's a problem. Mm-hmm. Denver does not look great. The win over the Niners was so, like, what? Like, it was so weird. So do you think the problem is Russell Wilson, or do you think it's Nathaniel Hackett?
Wow. Well, I'm going to say I think it's a Nathaniel Hackett thing. And the reason why is because Russell Wilson doesn't control penalties on the defensive side of the ball, especially when it comes to, like roughing the passer, pass interference, offsides. And also, too, I would say offensively, the false starts. I couldn't tell you how many times in the 49er game I saw, a drive gets started by the Broncos and immediately stalled because one of their young O linemen jumped off sides. Jumped to a false start. So I would say I think it's a Nathaniel Hackett thing. I get it. Maybe it's a complicated offensive system. Wilson has been in a system with Seattle obviously for 10 years, so he has a lot of old habits essentially. And, he's learning a new unique system. And I would say that for the receiving core as well. They're a young bunch. And Courtland Sutton was injured all of last season. Jerry Jeudy, same thing. He was injured majority of last season. Tim Patrick, who was supposed to be like, wide receiver 2 or 1, depending on, what scheme they're running. He's out currently. So, you don't even have a full gamut of your weapons. And it's a brand new system. And you can tell like they need a lot of work. And I think it's a Nathaniel Hackett thing. And again, clock management and going for a 68-yard field goal rather than let's go get one more play in before we call a timeout. That's not a Wilson thing, even though some would say he had the power to do that. But, I think it's a Nathaniel Hackett thing too. In my opinion, I think if I had to assess the first 3 or 4 games of this season, that's what I would generally assume is this is a Hackett situation.
Earlier I was with you, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I think there is somewhat, I think there's blame for both, and I'm not going to be that person who's going to be like, I'm Switzerland, I'm both. I like this guy and this guy. No, and I don't know why I'm making fun of Switzerland. I wish America was like that sometimes. But anyway, I actually, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. I think there is a problem with Russell Wilson because, Cody, you and I share a fantasy league, and I know I'm not going to go into fantasy football, but recently I just saw that Russell Wilson came up on the injured list. Now he's questionable. I'm sure he's going to play. But yeah. This was happening a lot in Seattle the last few years. And I will give credit to the Backseat Podcast. They've kind of been on this for a while. They're like, I see a decline in Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of under the impression that Seattle, there's not much. It's Tyler Lockett. He's okay. DK Metcalf. He's this big, fast receiver. But he's okay, I guess. I don't think he's elite yet. I think he could be. Mm-hmm. And he had a great week this past week. But then they were running with Will Dissly, and I was just like, the offensive line is bad. The defense is getting worse. I don't know. I just don't think it's Russell Wilson. But now that I'm seeing it on a team that has a great defense, I don't think their offensive line is as bad as everyone's saying it is. I think they actually have some dudes up front. Mm-hmm. And then I think their running backs, even without Javonte Williams, is still pretty good. And then I think the receiving core is I don't think it's great, but I think it is a good receiving core. So, yes, it can be Nathaniel Hackett, but I also want to think about Russell Wilson. When he was struggling in Seattle, this would happen where he would show up randomly on the injured list, and then all of a sudden he'd miss a couple of weeks, and he came back and he'd have like a really good game. And everyone was like, oh, okay, it was just the injury. It was just the injury. But then he kind of took a step back, but then they would win these weird games that they probably shouldn't have won. And then you look at the record and you're like, well, he's holding up the team. Maybe it is Russell Wilson. Maybe he is the one that is kind of the problem here. Now, the whole game management thing, I do also think exactly what you're saying. He could have stepped up. Russell Wilson has done this for years. Mm-hmm. He has done this for years. As a quarterback, you have to feel, at least if you feel like something's going to work. Like if Tom Brady were on his first year in Tampa Bay and the coach was like, okay, we're just going to kick the field goal out, I'm pretty sure Tom Brady would have went over to the coach and was like, no, we're not. We're not going to do this. This is Aaron Rodgers would be the same way. Russell Wilson and Derek Carr, in my opinion, I think would be guys who would say, no, I'll just go with the coach. Because I think that's what's going on with Derek Carr right now is he's kind of just like, I don't know what the proper word would be, but just kind of like leaving it up to the coach. And he's just like,
Right.
okay, I'll wash my hands of it and I'll just take the blame for it. But, whatever. But like Patrick Mahomes, I mean, you saw Eric Bieniemy. I mean, how long have they been working together and they're out there arguing? I want to see that. I want to see that. We saw that with Derek Carr and John Gruden. They would argue all the time, and everyone was like, "Oh, John Gruden's not going to like that." And actually, it came out where John Gruden loved that. He wanted to be challenged, and I think Derek Carr needs to do that with Josh McDaniels. But going into Russell Wilson, I think he needs to do that with Nathaniel Hackett because this is the first year he's being a head coach. Russell Wilson is going to have to challenge him. As much as Hackett has been around in the league for a long time because of his dad and now him, Russell Wilson has been playing in the game. And Nathaniel Hackett, this is his first time being an actual head coach. It is a big, significant difference going from head coach or going from offensive coordinator to head coach. It's not like, it's kind of like where if you were a guy playing safety and then coming into playing quarterback, it's a big difference. Okay. I know that's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I really do feel like Russell Wilson is going to have to challenge Nathaniel Hackett. Do I think Nathaniel Hackett has shown that he is a little incompetent right now? Yes. But that's why I think this is Russell Wilson's problem, because he needs to step up. He needs to be the leader. And he's not doing that right now. And I think that's where you're going to lose the locker room, because a lot of guys are like, yeah, Russell Wilson is corny. Yeah, Russell Wilson is a guy who, he just doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. And guys don't respect that. I mean, I'm a guy, I don't really respect someone who's just going to brown nose me the whole time. I would like someone to be like, I wouldn't do that, dude. And be like, oh, shoot, I think you're right. I want to be somewhat challenged. I don't want to just be like a yes man all the time. So I think Russell Wilson does need to step up. So I'm going to say it's Russell Wilson. All right, Cody. We'll go real quick here. Raiders and Chiefs, they're coming up, sir. What do you expect in this game?
So I know I went on this diatribe of it's a positive win for the Raiders, but I think this is going to be a tough week against the Chiefs. If I'm not mistaken, we're playing them in Kansas City, so we don't normally play them very well in Kansas City to begin with. I think the only time we won was 2019, I want to say. I think it was pre-pandemic. Or maybe it was I can't remember. I think it was 2020. I think because it was Henry Ruggs' rookie season, I think, and he actually stretched the field for us, and it was a pretty good game. And I think we beat him in a shootout. Anyways, but since then, though, we haven't had a great outing against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are a different team, obviously, as they were last year without Tyreek Hill. I think now that they have a little bit more pieces getting involved that do a little bit of everything, I think it does change the dynamic of the offense. And plus, I'm not super confident in our defense. And one of the things that made it more apparent to me is when the Chiefs were playing the Buccaneers, and they put 28 on them in the first half very quickly, lightning fast. And if that was against the Buccaneers defense, who I think at the time was ranked number 1 in the league, what are they going to do I think ours is like second to last ranked defense with Patrick Mahomes. I think they're just going to carve up our secondary. Nate Hobbs is going to have his hands full. I know the Raiders just signed Blake Martinez, which is, I think, a good signing. I don't think it's going to be that much, but I think that this is where we're probably not going to win this game with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are coming in pretty hot, pretty confident. And I don't want to squash our momentum, but I don't think that we're going to have as positive as an outcome as we're hoping for. And I just think that we're probably not going to take this one this week, and we're going to, probably begin week 6, 1-4. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I see the same thing. Listen, the Chiefs are 5th in offense in the NFL right now. They're actually 11th in defense, which is, I still think, is high.
Right.
But they did play the Colts. I know they lost to the Colts, but they weren't. The Colts aren't, this barn burner of a team. Their passing is 7th, and they're 11th in rushing. So my synopsis is this: I'm okay if the Raiders cheat for the pass and kind of allow a lot of running plays, because the one thing that you're not going to allow to happen is the Chiefs get going on their passing offense, which is going to allow Patrick Mahomes to get going, which aka Travis Kelce and all that, and then they're going to mix and match what they want to do. They're going to spread the ball with Juju Smith, Travis Kelce, and some of the running backs. So if you kind of cheat the pass and you just kind of let them run, first of all, they're running the clock out, but also they're not getting their offense going, which means you can kind of play their game a little bit. You can kind of score some points, and maybe you'll get a couple of cheap points because maybe you're making their offense stall a couple of times. So listen, I think there are two things that the Raiders need to do. I think first, cheat the pass. I think that's going to be a good option, but I also do think that the Raiders are going to have to they're going to have to have Chandler Jones be a factor.
Yeah.
Chandler Jones has to be a factor, because we've seen when Max Crosby, the game that you're talking about, which was 2020, the game that Max Crosby really affected Patrick Mahomes, we ended up winning. If you have two guys who can affect Patrick Mahomes, now you're getting something going. The one thing that I took from the Buccaneers game, yes, their offense was good. Yes, I do think the Buccaneers defense is good, but what I took away is there was not a ton of pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And when he had time to throw, he was looking beastly. I mean, you said it. Put up 28 points almost automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Raiders can put a little more pressure on him, even if we have to blitz a little bit more than we're used to, I don't think Blake Martinez, if he does play, is he going to play that much? No. He's a tackling machine, which is going to really help. But so is Denzel Perryman. He's a big tackling machine. But Martinez was signed to the practice squad, so we'll see if he makes it to the team. But there are possibilities of the way that we win. Nate Hobbs is an aggressive guy. Merrick has been really good at safety. Jonathan Abram, I think, has really improved. But for the love of God, if I see him covering Travis Kelce, Cody, I'm going to pull my freaking hair out, and I'm going to shut the game off, because it's going to drive me nuts. Jonathan Abram has played a lot better, but he's not a great coverage guy. And when you have him covering their best receiver, it's not going to end well for you. So get Abram away from Kelce, and I'd rather see Denzel Perryman on him, to be frank.
Well, I think Perryman is in concussion protocol, so he might even miss the game. So
okay, well, I'd rather see Blake Martinez then. Anyway, so I just, that's kind of what I'm getting at is, listen, do I think we're going to win this game? I really don't. I don't think do we have a chance? I think we have a chance. I actually don't think it's that far-fetched to say we have a chance. And if I were a betting man, I would bet the plus 7.5 on the Raiders to kind of cover there, not cover. No, to cover. I'm sorry. That's the right word. I was right. I was just second guessing myself. I would have the Raiders covering the point spread there, but I also see how this could get way out of hand. I absolutely do. But I do think that the Raiders do have a shot. I do think that Monday night, sometimes Derek Carr actually shows up even better. So I do think that we could potentially go with a shootout. And honestly, as much as they're saying that the Chiefs are 11th on defense, I don't think their defense is that good. I don't think they have a secondary guy at all in the Chiefs organization that can cover Devontae Adams. And it looks like we're supposed to get Hunter Renfrow back, and we need to go to Darren Waller, particularly probably in the red zone, and give him another shot of catching some balls in the end zone. So I do think that this could be a good game, and I don't think they have a great defense to stop the run, honestly, as well. I think they're going to have a lot of hard times with Josh Jacobs, because when Josh Jacobs runs against the Chiefs, from what I remember, he runs really well against the Chiefs. So
Yeah.
I really think that this could be a game that the Raiders could surprise some teams. Do I think they're going to win? No, but I do think that they can at least put up some scores.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, Cody. Well, we have week 4 overreaction and underreaction. But before we get into all that, I did want to say I want to shout out our partners over at Fanatics. Cody has been great on posting about Fanatics on our social media site, and hopefully getting a website soon. That's kind of what we're trying to get right now. We had one for a while. It was just maintaining, and we weren't getting as many views, but looks like we're going to have some help, so that'll be great. But honestly, the Fanatics partnership was so exciting. We've already had a few people use our links, so we appreciate all those people who have. I still need to. I've been wanting to buy stuff. My wife is like, babe, I need a shirt. I need a Raider shirt. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting. With the whole wedding thing, I totally forgot. So hopefully now with the wedding being done, now we can focus on what we want, which is Raider stuff.
Yeah.
So go check them out. Go click on the link that we either post on social media. We'll have it basically on every episode now moving forward. I'm sure it's going to be here on the YouTube description as well. So click on the Fanatics link. Go check it out. Listen, everyone has used Fanatics at least once, so you know what it's like. It's awesome. They always have like 50% off, 65% off. It just seems like they're always having deals. So go check them out. Use our links to support our podcast. We would love that, and we definitely appreciate that. So thank you in advance. So just wanted to get that out now, Cody.
Yeah,
in the middle of the show, so no one can skip it.
Exactly. I love it what you did there.
All right, Cody. So let's go into let me ask this question first, and then we'll end with the coaches. Is that cool?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So the first question I wanted to ask is, Cody, do you believe that there is a true great team in the NFL?
Well, I think great is a really loaded phrase to use, because I don't think that there is one team that's blowing the doors off of things. I don't even think the Chiefs are necessarily the team that can run away with everything as they once were before. And to be truthful, I don't even think the Buccaneers, because they have Tom Brady, they've got a lot going on too, and so on and so forth. I actually do think, though, that in my opinion, there is a team that is ahead of most people, or most teams, I will say. And I actually will say, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are legit. I know you were telling me earlier this week that, you had a hard time with them, losing somewhat of a lead to, who was the team that they were playing on Sunday?
Lions.
The Lions.
Oh, and no,
not the Lions. Jaguars. Now, granted, Jaguars are a really good team. In my opinion, I think they're a sleeper in the AFC. They really had a great game against, arguably the Chargers, who some said are supposed to win the West or at least get into the playoffs, and they had their way with them last Sunday. And so I think that the Jaguars are somewhat of a legit team. They're better coached. They have a really stout defense. I don't think that's really talked about that much. But anyways, it brings back to my point with the Eagles. I think the Eagles are somewhat of a legit team. They have a ferocious defense, especially that secondary. I think their secondary is number 1 in the league. They really have some lockdown cornerbacks there. They have really great pass rushers. And in my opinion, they actually have an extremely balanced offense with their running attack, using Miles Sanders, using Jalen Hurts, and then Jalen Hurts getting the ball out to A.J. Brown or Smith, Dallas Goedert, whoever it needs to be, that's where it needs to go to. And I know that it may not have been the greatest showing against the Jaguars, but it really showed that even though they go against a team that really put up some resistance, they found a way to win. A young team found a way to win. Granted, it was a younger team, but the point being in the NFL is when you win games, you build momentum, build confidence, and that's what they're continuing to do. And they're a team that literally has done everything exactly what they would say. They got A.J. Brown, they solidified their defense, and they just told everybody, we're going to be the best team on the field every Sunday, Monday, or Thursday, whenever they play. And sure enough, so far as a 4-0 team, they have been absolutely the best team in football, in my opinion, up to this point. Now, again, injuries could happen. A lot of things are going to happen. A lot of things will unfold as the weeks go on. But in my opinion, they seem to be the most, what's the term I want to say? They seem to be the best team to get to the Super Bowl. Now, winning is another story, but I think that they have the better shot at getting it. And in my opinion, they are going to be able to compete with some of these top AFC teams to win the Super Bowl. In my opinion, I think that it's the Eagles as of this moment.
You know, I don't think there's a great team. I think the Eagles are a really good team, and I think they're the closest to being great. But at the same time, I've seen too many falters with their defense on teams that they shouldn't be faltering against. Like I had mentioned, the Lions. Although I do think the Lions are a pretty decent team. I think they're an okay team, and they have a pretty potent offense. The Eagles will start off in the first half really strong, and then they just die off in the second half. And if you're playing a team like the Buccaneers, you're playing a team like the 49ers, you're playing a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, you can't do that because that's going to kill you. Yes, is it great that they have ended up winning all of those games? Absolutely. But you look at the Eagles like schedule right now, they're not world beaters right now. I mean, they beat the Lions, which 38-35. That's a really close game against a team that they should, for all intents and purposes, should have mopped the floor with them. They beat the Vikings, who were on a high, so I think that's a decent win. But, as we all know, I'm not as high on the Vikings as everyone else. They beat the Commanders. Okay, no one's screaming about the Commanders. And then they beat the Jaguars, who they were down 14-0 really early. And I don't think, as much as you were saying, the Jaguars do have a good defense, I don't think their defense is at the point where they can stop a good offense. I think they're a pretty good mediocre defense. They're going to face the Cardinals. I mean, right now I would feel good about the Eagles. Then they face the Cowboys. I'll pick the Eagles in that one. They have a bye week, then the Steelers. It's just a lot of mediocre on their schedule, and I think they're really benefiting from that. So it's hard for me to say that this team is legit. I think they're going to lose some weird games, which most teams do. I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they lost to that team. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I do feel like the Eagles are really benefiting from a very weak schedule, a very weak division, in my opinion. And I don't think they're great because they haven't gone against a great team. And so I just, that's my hesitation on saying that they're great. Are they very good? They're absolutely good. Do they have a chance at being undefeated? I think there is a possibility. I don't think they will, because I think there are going to be some games where Jalen Hurts has, which every quarterback does, where he'll just kind of have these weird off games where he can't even get to 100 passing yards, So I think there'll be a few of those and they'll end up losing. But, I think if they faced a 49er defense, that offense could stall. If they face a Buccaneers offense, that defense could really hurt. And then you have to face the Buccaneers defense, which is another feat in itself. So I do feel like the Eagles, if they face these good teams, you would kind of see, okay, maybe they're not great, but they're getting there. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in agreement with you in the sense of, I think this team is going places, but do I think that they're a great team? No, I don't. So going into that, Cody, I did want to bring up, let's do top 5 power rankings in the NFL, because we've been doing that for MLB, which we'll do later on. And let's talk about the NFL, because let's try and get into a habit of doing this, because I think it's fun for me to do an MLB. I know you're excited about doing this because you feel more confident in the NFL, which I'm glad you do. So we'll let's talk about our top 5. I don't know, did you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, so I'll start with number 1. So even though I'm saying I don't think the Eagles are great, I do have them at number 1. I think they're a very good football team. Obviously, them being 4-0, being down 14-0 to the Jaguars, even though I don't think the Jaguars defense is a world beater, I do think that it was a significant win. Obviously, they ended up winning 29-21. So good for the Eagles. I think they're a really good team. Listen, Jalen Hurts, I don't think he's been absolutely just like going off, but he's using AJ Brown to how you're supposed to use AJ Brown. And you know what? He's really benefiting. It's exactly what we were talking about with Derek Carr earlier, where you use your best receiver, good things happen, you know?
Yeah.
So I think Jalen Hurts kind of heard that and was like, yeah, well, we're just going to give it to AJ Brown and let him run with it. Devontae Smith, he had a really good game. I think it was last week. And then, Dallas Goedert, you have to worry about him as well. I think that's a really good team. And then Miles Sanders is even benefiting from all these receivers, because now he's seeing more running lanes than he ever has before. So the Eagles are number 1. Do you want me to keep going? Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted me to keep going. Okay. No. So number 2, I have the Buffalo Bills. As much as I almost put the Chiefs, I think right now, if the Bills and Chiefs played each other, have the Bills struggled the last couple of weeks? Yes. But in my opinion, I do think that the Bills are still a better team. I think the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen, yes, I know they can't run, but I kind of feel like Josh Allen is an absolute cheat code right now. He's got a booming arm. You put it up against Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes probably could throw a little bit. I know. Let's say this. I think Josh Allen could throw a little bit further, but I think Mahomes could throw it further more accurately. That's the only thing I would say about Mahomes and Allen. But obviously, Allen is a bigger guy. He's a guy that can take a hit or two. When Mahomes gets hurt, sometimes you kind of see Chiefs fans kind of, lock that sphincter up a little bit, So, which I don't blame you. I mean, I would too. If I were a Chiefs fan, I would be like, oh, no, please. But I do think that Bills defense is legit. To come back against the Ravens, against a Lamar Jackson team who, yes, they've given up 2 leads now. They've given up, but listen, Lamar Jackson had a phenomenal game against Miami. He's coming into Buffalo. He's pissed that they lost that game. So he's coming into this game and they end up losing again. But Lamar Jackson is still a beast. Mark Andrews, they shut down Mark Andrews, as we knew in fantasy, because that really hurt us. Yes. But he's using guys like Rashad Bateman, and he's like J.K. Dobbins had a really good game. So, I feel like the Bills, that defense is legit, because when you shut down Mark Andrews, where it seems like no one ever shuts Mark Andrews down for some strange reason, Lamar Jackson, that's the answer. But anyway, for some strange reason, no one can stop Mark Andrews. The Bills figured it out. And even though, yes, it was a close game, I think the Ravens are a legit team still. And I think the Bills are that good. So number 3, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. We talked a lot about them. They're doing well. I think their defense is at times suspect, and I don't think the running game is going to continue how it has. But it's worked for them so far. But I think they miss Tyreek Hill. I know everyone wants to talk about the Chiefs. Oh, they don't need Tyreek Hill. Listen, missing the deep ball later in the year is going to start hurting a little bit. Tyreek Hill, you could throw literally a jet sweep pass, and then all of a sudden he takes it to the house. I don't really think Marquez Valdez-Scantling will do that. Juju Smith is not going to do that. He's not a house burner. Travis Kelce definitely is not going to do that. So I just think that they're going to miss that aspect of their offense. But I think they are having fun figuring out what they can do offensively now. I am actually going to put the Chargers at number 4. I don't like the Cowboys. I don't like the Packers. I don't like the Dolphins. I don't like especially without Tua. I don't like the Vikings, and I don't think the Giants are as legit. Then I was looking at the 2-2 team. The Ravens have given up 2 leads, so it's kind of hard for me to put them in the top 5. I really debated about putting the Bengals in there, which there's a possibility they could end up there. But I think the Chargers are still, the way they played last week, that's a scary thing. Again, I know it's the Texans. What are we talking about? But listen, Herbert still has a rib injury as far as I know. And he went lights out. And then they finally used Austin Eckler. And he had a huge game. And then you talk about you're going to get Keenan Allen back probably this week. Mike Williams has been but they haven't needed him. Gerald Everett has some sort of weird connection with Justin Herbert that is phenomenal and is working out well. And I still think that defense is really good. They've been really suspect, though, and I think they're without Joey Bosa right now. So I do think that is slightly hurting them a little bit. But overall, and J.C. Jackson, I think, is out too. So they have a lot of injuries, which means when they get healthy, that team is going to go right back to the team that we saw, basically beat the Raiders, who, they did a good job on us defensively in the fourth quarter. So,
yeah.
And then my number 5, I'm going to go with the 49ers. I was very impressed with the Rams. Yes, they always beat the Rams. It seems like Sean McVay loses to Kyle Shanahan almost every time now.
Yeah.
That's weird. But
except in the playoffs.
Yeah. Listen, Stafford was pressured a lot. The run game could not get going for the Rams. Allen Robinson, I don't know what's going on with him and the Rams, but Deebo Samuel, the ball. Like every time I was over at my in-laws' house, we were watching the game. They threw it to Deebo Samuel. Now you caught me doing it. Every time they would throw it to him, a second before we were like, they're going to throw it to Deebo Samuel. Sure enough, they threw it to Deebo Samuel, and he took it for 6. And you're like, how do you know that he's going to get it and you still can't stop him? That's how good he is. Unfortunately, George Kittle is practically playing left tackle right now. So when Trent Williams comes back, George Kittle will be another cheat code, and Brandon Ayuk, say what you will, he's actually been pretty effective in the offense. He needs to be used a little bit more, and I think that'll help their offense. But listen, I think the Niners are legit with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think they showed that Monday night.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to briefly give you my top 5 just for time reasons. So number 1, Philadelphia Eagles. I agree with just about everything you said. In my opinion, they have a very good defense. Their offense, I think, is there, even though it maybe had some sputtering issues against the Jags that we talked about. They found a way to win. Are they going to play for competition? Yes, but I think that's only going to make them grow as a team more. So I like them. They're my number 1 team right now. Number 2, I do have the Kansas City Chiefs. They absolutely whooped the dog crap out of the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. I was saying that the Buccaneers were still like a top 2 team in the NFC just because you have Tom Brady. Even though that they basically didn't have any receivers, they were still winning. And I know that they don't look like the greatest team ever assembled, but they were still finding ways to get it done. And the Chiefs just absolutely mopped the floor with the Buccaneers, and didn't turn out as well as we were thinking of. But so I got the Chiefs too, and number 3, I have the Buffalo Bills. Really, the fact that they were able to bounce back from a heartbreaking loss last week and beat a team that you say will win the North in the Baltimore Ravens, and Ravens don't know how to hold a lead. It seems like. I know that even against the Patriots the week before, this past week they gave up quite a few points, and it was very suspect. So, anyways, so I have Bills at 3. At 4, I actually have the Minnesota Vikings. The only loss that they have is against the number 1 team that I have in Philadelphia Eagles, and they were able to find a way to win against Green Bay. They were able to win out against the Saints, which even though it was the Saints missing a field goal, it's a win. And I think that this team is much improved. Defense is a little bit suspect at times, but their offense is there as long as they don't play on any national televised games. I think they'll be okay. And then at number 5, I actually have the Green Bay Packers. They've won 3 consecutive games from week 1. And
you don't believe that?
Today I have them at number 5. Ask me next week.
You don't believe that. I know you don't. You're such a liar. You're trying to be different. I know you.
Well, I'm not gonna pick a 2-2 team. I'd pick the Giants before I picked a 2-2 team, just because they're 3-1.
Well,
you know how hard it is to be 3-1 in the league right now?
It is, but at the same time, the power rankings are not. It's not for what your record is. It's mainly for who you think is actually really good. The Niners went through Trey Lance in a monsoon.
Mm-hmm.
They lost a weird game. I think you have Jimmy Garoppolo, who's been in that offense before. I think he actually wins that game. Trey Lance had some ducks in that game. Then obviously, he got hurt the next week and whatever, and the rest was history. But I do think that you see that defense for the Niners. That travels. I mean, defense travels. And the Chargers.
Hold on. Okay, yes. Their defense is very, very good. Absolutely no doubt. I will also say, though, when we were doing NFC West predictions, you didn't believe in their defense. I just want to put that out on Front Street and put you on blast. But I will also say, too, that they lost in a baseball score to the Denver Broncos the week before. And I think it is okay to say that, yes, their defense played really well against the Rams, but the Rams right now are upside down, and that played a huge part in it. The fact that Cooper Kupp got 14 receptions, and I think, Stafford only completed 23 total completions. So that means Cooper Kupp had 78% of the completions. That's a huge number. The fact that he won't even look at Allen Robinson the second, you would think he's the one that had an affair with Stafford's wife or something, So I think that there is something there. The fact that they're not utilizing him, I think the Rams, in my opinion, it shows more that they've got a lot of dysfunction. The fact that they could not put their best foot forward against a very good team that they will probably see, they will see again, and it may even have some playoff implications. I think that's more an indictment on them than the 49ers. In my opinion, I think Green Bay has a very good defense. Yes, their offense, it is what it is. However, it is what it is, and they're still winning. It'd be one thing if the 49ers were winning and their defense as it is. But they're 2-2, and yes, because of a monsoon that they played in and a weird loss to Denver, which I cannot look past. Green Bay almost lost to the Patriots, and they came out. But you know what the Patriots have? They have like a top 10 defense every year. And yes, they squeaked out a win, but it was a win, and they're now 3-1. So I can't look past that for a 2-2 record team.
And that's fair. But if the score were changed, if the Niners won 11-10 over the Broncos, they're 3-1.
They'd be
number 5. That's my point. It's a 1-point loss. Yes, was it a weird game? Of course. Every team is going to have those. If Jimmy Garoppolo is 3-0, everyone's going to be talking about the 49ers as they're probably the best team in the NFC over the Eagles. I would guarantee it.
Sure.
And
now,
so that's kind of my thought of
yes,
they're 2-2, but I do think they're a legit team.
Right. Here's my thing. Top 5 power rankings sometimes get a mixed blending of based on your record and what you've done, and then also to your talent level on your roster. I think we can agree on that. But here's the thing, though. I think there are more talented teams than even our top teams, but they're just not winning. And I can't justify giving the 49ers above, let's say, the Packers. I'm agreeing with you. The 49ers, I would even say the Chargers, have a far better top and bottom roster, more talented than Green Bay. But despite that, Green Bay has found a way to win and only have lost their opening game against a divisional opponent in the Vikings, who arguably has a very good offense. And I even have them in my top 5 because, again, they're finding ways to win despite that. I can't penalize a team that's winning because of a team that's more talented that has lost. Like, you wouldn't catapult the Ravens into the top 5 because they had 2 terrible losses come from behind, or, that were blown leads.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't punish Green Bay because I think the Ravens or the Chargers offense is more talented. I'm just purely basing it off of they found a way to win. That's the name of the game. And that's how I have to see it, unfortunately. Do I like Green Bay in general? No, I'm not even that high on Green Bay or Aaron Rodgers, but I can't ignore the fact that they're winning out of spite, like they're finding a way to win. And they shouldn't be. That's the ironic thing. They should not be winning, and yet they're finding a way to win.
I would have respected you more if you put the Giants in.
You know what? If I wanted some brownie points from my wife, I probably should do it because she's a Giants fan. But I don't even, again, if we were talking about talented rosters, the fact that Saquon Barkley won them the game and he was their quarterback for a majority of the fourth quarter, I don't know, man. That team's not probably going that far anymore.
All right, Cody. Well, let's just get into it. You can put in a break later.
Yeah, I'll fix it.
You can do all that. You can edit it. You got the knowledge.
You got this.
So speaking of power rankings, I think you'll fight me less on this.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, with baseball, it is different, though. I mean, the record kind of does tell you what the team is. So with football, it's a little different. But anyway, let's do the MLB power rankings, and then let's finish off with the postseason preview. So, Cody, the power rankings really haven't changed much. We've had the same 5 teams the last
6 weeks,
probably month. Yeah, month and a half, maybe. Yeah. So I'll run through it real quick. I have the Dodgers at number 1. I don't think I need to explain that. They have the best record in baseball, still winning games. I mean, I think they won today. So, the Astros at number 2. I have the Braves at number 3, who actually just clinched the NL East. So congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. Then I put the New York Yankees. Yes, I put them over the Mets. Why? Because when the Yankees are talking about Aaron Judge and trying to break the record and, all that, that's a lot of pressure on a guy, yet they were still winning games. And Toronto was making a push. Tampa Bay was making a push. Baltimore at one time was making a push to actually overtake them in the AL East. Yet the Yankees never let go of it. The Mets, although, yes, they did win 100 games. Congratulations to the Mets. They had the Braves, and they were ahead of them, I believe, 15 games ahead of the Atlanta Braves and gave up that lead. And now the Braves ended up winning the division. You could argue, oh, well, the Braves, they won the division last year. They're the division champ. The Mets had a stronghold. They had Jacob deGrom come back. Max Scherzer come back. Yes, Starling Marte got hurt, but that shouldn't be why you lose the division, okay? So, yes, I have the Yankees over the Mets. Also, I do have the Yankees over the Mets because, Cody, I think you know why.
Because of Aaron Judge?
No. Because
run differential?
Run differential.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wright. Run differential. Was that the answer?
They are second in the league in run differential, and I cannot ignore that. Yes, 62 of those is because of Aaron Judge himself, which congratulations to Aaron Judge. I mean, what a feat, not only for him, but for Fresno, where we are from.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the best receiver in football, arguably, I'll say, in Devontae Adams from Fresno State. You have an NBA star in the NBA from Fresno State, Paul George. And then you have Aaron Judge, who just broke the American League record in home runs. I know Dodger fans, Padre fans, I know all these guys are going to hate on the Giants. Oh, legally, it's the actual home run record. Spare me. Listen, there's no asterisks on it. Bonds was walked more than Judge was, and he still
Yeah.
was hitting 73. Well, that's because he's juicing. I mean, I'll be that guy. That's fine. He was never convicted. He was
Yeah.
never found to actually have. He never tested positive. So, sorry. I mean, you can say that. Did it look suspicious? Maybe, but he's always been a good hitter. He hit 500 home runs before he supposedly was juicing. So,
Yeah.
let's talk about that a little bit, maybe. Anyway, we're not going to go into that debate, but nonetheless, congratulations, Aaron Judge. That is a huge, huge number. I mean, just to get to like 55 home runs is incredible. Actually, 50 for me is like, holy cow.
Yeah.
But to get to 62, I remember watching the McGuire, the Sosa, and then obviously the Bonds, push their way to try and get all these home runs. And it's spectacular. And Aaron Judge going for 61 was just as exciting. So congratulations to him. But anyway, so I have the Mets at 5. They've really faltered. Edwin Diaz, since Timmy Trumpet came and performed live, has actually been kind of a liability. And it's a little concerning going into postseason. So that's where we're going to go into, Cody. Let's talk about the postseason preview of the MLB postseason. It's set. It's done. There's another set of games tomorrow. It doesn't matter. This is what we're going to see. So in the AL, the number 1 seed is the oh, good Lord.
Wow.
I almost started that terribly.
Holy
the Houston
cow.
Astros. Number 2 seed is the New York Yankees. Both get a bye week the first week. So great. Awesome. The wild card, though, in the AL, you have the Cleveland Guardians versus Tampa Bay Rays. I'm going to be pushing for the Guardians wholeheartedly. I really like this team. I actually was talking with Clark about it, I believe on their show, where we were talking about baseball, and he was kind of bringing up the Guardians, and we were just going over their roster and like what these guys are doing right now. This is a really scary team. They're going to be fun to watch. Then you have in the 4th seed the Toronto Blue Jays, who I feel like should have been way better. And I'm a little concerned about them being in the postseason. They're going to be going against the Seattle Mariners, who I think a lot of people were probably going to pick Toronto. I'm really going to be rooting for the Seattle Mariners. I really like the Mariners team. Their starting rotation is kind of bad. And so that's my only worry about them is Toronto actually has a pretty good starting rotation. Not great, but they're pretty good. And then the bullpens for both teams. I think Mariners have a better bullpen. So if it does become a bullpen game, I do think the Mariners could come out on top. But either way, that's going to be a really fun series. Then in the NL, obviously, we have the Dodgers at number 1 seed. They get the bye week. And then the Atlanta Braves at the number 2 seed with their bye week. Then you have the St. Louis Cardinals in the number 3 spot going against the Philadelphia Phillies. If you were to tell me that these two teams were going to face off in postseason, in the start of the season, I would have picked the Phillies all day on Sunday. But the way they play and the way the Cardinals play great as a team. The way that Pujols is going into the postseason, he has to actually be a factor. Like, you have to worry about his at-bats. And then Yadier Molina, who is a guy who just makes contact. I mean, I don't think I ever see him strike out. That team is starting to finally catch on fire. And the Phillies, they held on to the postseason, but they labored a lot. They just didn't look great. So I think the Phillies are a few years away from doing what they want to do. So I think they're going to lose this one. Then the 4th seed, you have the New York Mets, and the 5 seed, the San Diego Padres. Again, you were to tell me, I would probably pick the Padres, actually, even without Juan Soto. Now you have Juan Soto, and I'm kind of like, the Mets could win, but the way the Mets have played, and the Padres are they might sweep the Giants if they win tomorrow. They would have swept the Giants, which actually, if you're the Padres, you're kind of going for, because you want to go into the postseason on a high note. And if you sweep a division rival, that's going to give you a big spark. So if you're the Mets, you're really rooting for the Giants tomorrow because you don't want the Padres to get too high. Because if they do, they have starting pitching to counter yours. Their bullpen, in my opinion, is better than what the Mets is. The lineup can be better, but I think the Mets lineup has played better. So that could go either way. I'm probably going to give the edge to the Mets, but I would not be at all surprised at all if the Padres ended up winning the series. I do think they will miss Fernando Tatis a little bit. Ha-Seong Kim has been good for the Padres, and I think he deserves like a medal for just he was supposed to play half of the year, and then all of a sudden he played the full year. Obviously, they've been rotating guys too. It hasn't been just him, but he's been good. But he has some just really bad games where he just can't see the ball at all. So we'll see what happens. But honestly, if I'm a betting man, to come out of the American League, oh man, I'm probably gonna say the Astros. My second one would probably be the Guardians. I think the Guardians are that good.
Wow.
I think those two teams are probably going to face off in the ALCS. And then I would probably pick the Braves and Dodgers to come out of the NL. And I actually would probably give favor to the Braves just because I do think the Dodgers are going to miss Walker Buehler. Yeah. But the way they're setting up their bullpen and their starting rotation, the Dodgers could still really be they could probably go to the World Series as well. So it's going to be interesting. I think this postseason is one of those postseasons that I don't think there's really a true favorite because I could see how all these favorites could lose.
Yeah. So what was your prediction earlier this year? Was it Dodgers and Yankees? Right? Is that who you had going to the World Series at the start?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the Dodgers can get there fine. I think their hitting is gonna get them past their pitching woes, and even still, their pitching woes aren't that bad. Yes, they're missing their ace, but they've done just fine in their rotation without Buehler for basically all season. So I don't see them really falling off anytime soon. My only thing with the Braves, though, is, again, you pointed this out a couple of weeks ago. They're pitching, their bullpen. Is it going to be able to hold up? Because they've got the hitters there, and maybe it's the experience. I do think, though, that if the Dodgers and the Braves do meet, I do think that it favors the Braves a little bit because I don't know how Freddie Freeman's going to be going to Atlanta, playing that team, and possibly being he might be an emotional wreck, and I think that will affect him. Which is huge because, the Braves brought his bat in because he is essentially a spark getter. I think if I'm not mistaken, he's led off majority of the season in their lineup because he's just a guy that gets on base and makes contact and does what he does. I just don't know if he'll be able to stay focused if he's in a series with the Braves. So I would kind of agree with you that the Braves would have the upper hand there against the Dodgers if they, met in the NLCS. So.
Yeah, I actually had the Dodgers and Red Sox, so the Red Sox aren't even near it. So I was wrong on that, but I still have the Dodgers. But my thing is this: I look at the Braves, who they have to face, Phillies or Cardinals. I would pick the Braves. It doesn't matter either team. The Dodgers would have to either face the Mets or the Padres. I think that's way harder. Even for the Dodgers, you mentioned Freeman. Betts has been. I think Betts needs to be talked about way more. Yes, he's hitting like a high 270. I think he's like 279, but he has 35 home runs, and he's been primarily the leadoff hitter for the Dodgers. Freddie Freeman is usually the number 2, sometimes mostly the number 3 hitter. Muncy has been almost a guy who just swings and misses and everything, but then when all of a sudden he gets hot, he's just this amazing hitter. Cody Bellinger has been hitting like 7th and 8th and has found a home there and has actually done pretty well. Joey Gallo kind of got a rejuvenation. So there's something going on with the Dodgers. I think they have a really good lineup, but at the same time, the Mets and Padres are no slouch. Those are tough teams to play. I think you had the Yankees. I don't know who you NL team
I
you
had the
had.
Astros. I think I had the
You had
Astros
the
in the AL, and I can't remember the NL. I think I said.
I thought you
maybe
said the Yankees because I was like, I picked the Yankees so many times and I can't pick them anymore.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I did say Yankees and the NL. I can't remember who I picked in the NL. I want to say it was either the Braves. No, it wasn't the Braves. I can't remember the NL. I just remember AL. You're right. Was the Yankees.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, guys. Well, that is it. We are done. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast or watching it here on YouTube. We do appreciate that. Go follow us on all of our social media sites, which is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also on TikTok. And then also go check us out on all the major podcasts, which is Apple, iHeart, and Spotify. Subscribe, rate, and review. Anything and everything does help. So please, I recommend you be nice, but please be nice. But if you're not, just let us know if it's a 1-star, if what you didn't like, so that way we can change. If it's a 5-star, let us know what you like so we can continue to do it. Also, go check out, as I had already said, go check out our partners over at Fanatics. We're very excited to be partnered up with them. So thank you, Fanatics. They have so many, dude, I can't tell you how many times I've been on that website since we've become a partner. I've been on there every single day since, just checking out random things. But also go check out FNX Fitness, our other partner, FNX Fitness, or FNXFit.com, excuse me. Where you can get 15% off your whole purchase by using our promo code, which you can see on the bottom of the screen here. It'll also be in the link of the podcast and of basically all the videos that we post. So go check them out. Great workout gear, great workout supplement. I love the supplements. Cody loves the gear. So together we form a good FNX Fit partner.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, go check them out. And we appreciate you guys listening again. Thank you so much. I'm going to let Cody finish everything off here.
All right, guys. Well, again, thank you guys so much for listening. Next week, we will have obviously Raider content and NFL content. I think NBA preseason just started yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll be having some NBA stuff coming along. But definitely look out. We will be having a website launching very soon. So as soon as that comes out, we will let you guys know. And we will have so much more on there. If you guys are interested in starting your own podcast, please go to the link in this episode or any of the previous ones, and you will find Amazon links specifically to the gear that we are using to make our own podcast if you guys are interested. And, just for full disclosure, I highly recommend using Anchor.fm. It's a beautiful partner that we have with them as well. And again, a special thank you to Fanatics. If you guys are looking for official gear, such as what Andrew said, go there. I actually put out a little teaser yesterday about something that's launching tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that. And we will have some links for you guys to get nothing but exclusive gear for your NFL leagues. And my dog is trying to get me to get off right now, so I'm going to wrap real quickly. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for listening. As Drew had mentioned, go follow us, go subscribe, go do all that stuff. And we appreciate you guys for watching us and being faithful followers and listeners. We thank you guys so much for, giving us motivation to do this. And we cannot wait for more stuff that's going to come. And we cannot wait for you guys to join us on that journey. So with that being said, you guys, we're going to say, see you later. We'll see you next week, and be well and have a good one.
Last shout out to Neo and Maya. Thank you guys. Love you guys.
Again, congratulations, Neo and Maya. All right. Bye, guys.
Peace.